know that incredibly frustrating feeling when you're watching a video online and you're like completely invested in the story, and right at the very best part, the screen just it just freezes.
Oh man, that is the absolute worst. The image just stops and you get that little circle, into spins and spins, and you're sitting there maybe tapping your screen, just waiting for it to buffer. It completely ruins the whole experience.
It totally destroys the momentum. I mean, it's gone.
Well, if you think about trying to have a conversation in a new language, it's the exact same thing. If you are constantly, taking words, dragging them into your mental dictionary, and translating every single piece in your head before you speak, your brain is doing exactly that. It's buffering.
Wow, that is a brilliant way to put it. It's mental buffering. You're paused, just spinning, trying to process all the data, while the real world just, well, keeps playing on without you. Exactly. And today we're going to fix that connection speed. So, welcome to a brand new Fluentmx deep dive. We are the best place to learn natural American English, and we're so glad you're here. We're looking at a stack of sources today that all point to what many consider like the ultimate secret to fluency.
Yeah, the holy grail of language learning.
Right. We are diving deep into how to train your brain to stop translating and start thinking directly in English. And really quickly, if you enjoy this kind of thing, please give us a thumbs up and hit subscribe to help us grow. But before we get into the solution, can you explain exactly why translating is such a massive hurdle for beginners?
Oh, absolutely. I can actually share a very relatable personal story here from when I first started learning Spanish.
Yeah.
The process was it was painfully slow.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, because someone would speak to me. I'd hear the Spanish sentence, right? But instead of just answering naturally, I had to completely stop. I had to translate their Spanish sentence into English in my head just to figure out what they even wanted.
Which, I mean, that already takes a few seconds right there.
Exactly. And then, once I finally understood it, I'd have to think of my reply in English, then translate that English reply back into Spanish, and then finally I'd open my mouth to speak.
Just listening to you explain all those steps sounds completely exhausting. I mean, that is a massive cognitive load for your brain to carry every single time someone just simply says hello.
It really is. It burns so much mental energy. And, the worst part is just the timing of it all. By the time I actually formulated my answer and spoke, the conversation had already moved on.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the other person was already talking about something else entirely. I just always felt so slow and honestly pretty clumsy. You feel like you aren't really showing your true personality because you're trapped behind this translation wall.
And that's exactly what happens to so many of our listeners. It perfectly illustrates why translating is this massive, heavy hurdle. You're creating this totally unnecessary detour in your brain's circuitry.
Yeah, a detour is a good word for it.
Right, because when you translate, you aren't just retrieving a word. You are retrieving a word in your native language, searching for the English equivalent, verifying it, and then, sending it to your mouth. That detour takes time.
So I guess the ultimate objective of this deep dive is to give the listener a shortcut. We want to teach you how to skip your native language completely and build new, much faster highways right there in your brain.
And I know a shortcut sounds a little bit like magic to a beginner, but I promise it's not magic at all. It is simply biological conditioning. I want you to think of your brain exactly like a muscle.
Okay, like going to the gym.
Yes, exactly like the gym. When you go for the very first time, you don't just walk in, load up the bar, and immediately try to deadlift the heaviest weights in the whole room.
Definitely not. You would completely exhaust yourself. Or, honestly worse, you'd get hurt and just never want to go back.
Right, you'd quit on day one. So instead, you start by lifting the really small weights. You lift the small weights, and you use repetition to build your strength over time. The brain works the exact same way.
So we're basically building mental muscle.
Exactly. You train your language muscles through consistent small repetitions. If we want to build that new highway in the brain, we have to start laying down the pavement, one small stone at a time.
Well, I've got my gym clothes on mentally. I'm laced up, I'm stretched out, and completely ready to train my English brain. What does that first stepping stone actually look like?
So, step one is to start incredibly small. You have to start making tiny silent observations in your everyday life, and you need to make them using very simple English sentences.
Okay, but when you say small observations, I imagine some listeners might panic and think they need to be silently analyzing like global economics or having these deep philosophical debates in their heads.
Oh, absolutely not. That is trying to lift the 200-pound weight on day one. We don't want that. You just need to connect everyday objects and basic feelings directly to English words. You are completely bypassing your native language as a bridge.
Okay, so let's look at a morning routine as an example.
Perfect. Walk me through it.
All right, so I wake up. Normally, in my half-asleep state, I probably think about how tired I am using my native language, right?
Right. But starting tomorrow, you wake up, you stretch, and you force your brain to think silently in simple English. Just, I am awake, the sun is shining, I need coffee.
That actually sounds very doable. Like, it's not overwhelming at all.
Yeah.
And then I suppose I wander into the kitchen. I could look around and think, this is my favorite mug, the coffee is hot. And knowing my cooking skills, I'd probably have to add, the toast is burning.
Well, let's hope the toast isn't burning.
Yeah.
But notice the mechanics of what you were doing there. When you see that favorite mug on the counter, you aren't pulling out a dictionary in your head.
Right, I'm just looking at it.
Yes. You look at the physical object and you attach the English word mug directly to it.
You know what's fascinating here is just how much pressure that takes off you as a learner. You aren't trying to write a complex novel in your head. You're just narrating your life like a very simple, straightforward movie.
Narrating your life is a brilliant way to describe it. And the best part is you can do this absolutely anywhere.
Like on the way to work.
Exactly. If you're sitting on the bus during your commute, just look out the window and tell your brain what you see. I see a red car. The sky is blue. That man is walking fast.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, though, I can imagine this feeling a little, I don't know, strange at first.
Yeah.
You're essentially just talking to yourself inside your head all day long.
Oh, it definitely feels strange at first. I completely validate that. But that strange feeling is actually a really good thing because it means you aren't putting pressure on yourself to be perfectly fluent right away.
Ah, I see. It lowers the stakes.
Exactly. These simple sentences are just stepping stones. When you practice these small daily thoughts, your brain literally starts building those new highways. The neurological path from your thought to the English language gets shorter and it gets faster every single time you do it.
Okay, so if step one is what we're producing inside our heads, acting like a silent narrator, we probably need to talk about what we're feeding our brain from the outside to, fuel those thoughts.
That is right on the money. Step 2 is all about consuming English food, which we generally call input.
Input. So unfortunately, we're not talking about actual hamburgers and hot dogs here.
No, sadly not, though I wouldn't mind a burger right now. But no, input is the information that's actively put into your system. It's what goes into your brain through your ears and your eyes.
Like listening and watching things.
Yes, listening and watching. But there's a very strict rule for step 2, and it's called the rule of fun. Your input must be something you genuinely enjoy.
Which, that makes total sense cognitively. If I sit down and try to read some dense, boring science textbook in a new language, my brain just completely shuts off after 2 minutes. It just refuses to absorb the information.
Exactly, because when you force yourself to consume boring material, it feels like homework.
And nobody likes homework.
Right. Homework triggers stress, and a stressed brain throws up walls. It won't let new language in easily, but when you listen to music you actually love or you watch videos about your favorite hobbies, your brain relaxes.
So it's more open to learning.
Biologically, a relaxed brain absorbs language so much faster. So we want to connect actions to vocabulary. What is a hobby that you really enjoy doing on the weekends?
Oh, I really love cooking. I can spend hours looking up new recipes and watching food videos online.
Perfect. So if you love cooking, you should be watching cooking videos in English.
Yeah.
Because here's where it gets really interesting. The context completely replaces the need for a dictionary. Well, when the chef on the screen says, I am chopping the onions, and you physically see them chopping the onions at that exact moment, your brain makes a direct, immediate connection.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't need to pause the video and look up the word shopping because the visual action is just doing the teaching for me. I'm connecting the English phrase directly to the real-world action.
Exactly.
What if I love sports? Like, say, baseball, for instance.
Then you should absolutely watch baseball highlights with English commentary. When the announcer shouts, he hits the ball! Right as you see the player swing the bat, you're doing so much more than just learning vocabulary words.
Where is this happening?
You are learning the natural rhythm and the pattern of the language naturally without even realizing it.
This raises an important point about the rhythm of the language. English has a very specific kind of music to it, doesn't it?
It really does. English is what we call a stress-timed language. That means it has this very bouncy rhythm to it. Some words are stressed and loud, while other words are squished together, short and quiet.
Right, it's not perfectly even like some other languages.
Exactly. And the more you listen to native speakers enjoying themselves, the more you naturally pick up that musicality.
So that bouncy rhythm must be why listening to simple English pop songs is always so highly recommended for beginners.
Yes, absolutely. Music is fantastic for brain training. Pop songs are amazing because the choruses are super catchy and they repeat over and over again.
You definitely get stuck in your head.
And that's the goal. The melody gets stuck in your head, which essentially tricks your brain into thinking in English effortlessly. You might just be walking down the street humming the tune, and suddenly you are practicing English without even trying.
Okay, so we have step 1, which is thinking in small, simple sentences. We have step 2, which is giving your brain fun, relaxing input, like cooking videos and pop songs. But input isn't enough on its own, is it?
No, it's not. We have to balance it out. Step 3 is output. We've talked a lot about what goes into your brain, but now we really have to focus on what comes out of it. You have to produce the language by speaking out loud.
And I know this is where a lot of our listeners might feel a bit of panic because, a lot of people are learning English at home. They don't live in an English-speaking country, and they might not have a conversation partner to practice with.
And that is a very common fear. But here is the absolute best part. You do not need a partner for this. You can do this completely alone in private.
Speak to myself out loud, like without anyone else in the room. People might think I'm a little crazy.
Well, maybe if you do it really loudly in the middle of a crowded grocery store, but I'm talking about practicing in your own private spaces. You can speak out loud in your bedroom, in your car while you commute, or honestly, even in the shower.
Oh, the shower is a great idea.
It's perfect because it's completely private, the acoustics are great, and you're usually very relaxed in there.
That's true. But what exactly am I supposed to be talking about while I'm just standing in the shower?
You just describe your physical environment exactly like we did with our silent thoughts back in step 1. But this time you use your physical voice. You need your ears to actually hear your own voice speaking English.
Okay, got it.
So if you're standing in your bedroom, you could just look around and say out loud, "My bed is very soft. I need to wash my blue blanket. The lamp is turned on."
Or if I wanted to summarize the day, I could sit on the couch and say, "Today was a good day. I had a turkey sandwich for lunch. My boss was very busy. It rained in the afternoon."
Perfect. Yes, exactly like that.
But wait, if I'm practicing my output completely alone, how do I know I'm not just, repeating my own grammar mistakes over and over again? Doesn't that just reinforce bad habits?
I am so glad you brought that up because I want to passionately push back against this desire for perfection. Listeners, please remember this. Perfection does not exist in language learning.
That's a relief to hear.
It's the truth. The goal here isn't flawless grammar. The goal is fluency and rhythm. If you aren't making mistakes, you aren't pushing your brain hard enough. Making a mistake just means you're lifting heavier weights.
So consistency is way more important than being perfectly correct.
Absolutely.
We have to be kind to our brains. It takes time to rewire how you think. You won't become fluent overnight, so you just have to embrace the messy parts of learning.
Exactly. It's a slow biological process. But if you practice these 3 steps for just 10 or 15 minutes every single day, you will see a massive difference in a few months. Consistency is everything.
We've thrown around some pretty important concepts today, like the difference between input and output. Let's actually put some of these vital words in our pockets so our listeners can use them today.
Oh, I love the pocket words segment. Let's pick a few key vocabulary words from our discussion. Explain their meaning simply and give a clear example. Why don't you start us off?
I'd love to. Let's talk about the word translate. To translate means to change words from one language into another language. You see this all the time in everyday life.
And since our whole goal today is to stop doing that in our heads, a great example sentence would be, "I asked my friend to translate the menu for me because it was in French."
Right. Very practical. And then we have input. This is just the information that you put into a machine, a system, or in our case today, your brain. Listening and reading are your main types of English input.
A perfect example sentence for this is, "Listening to English podcasts is my favorite kind of daily input."
Which leads right into our third word, which is basically the exact opposite of that. The word is output. Output is what you physically produce or create. When it comes to languages, output means speaking and writing.
A clear example of that would be, "I understand English well, but I need to practice my output by speaking more often."
And our last word for today is repetitive. If something is repetitive, it simply means it's happening over and over again.
Now, I'll add that while repetitive can sometimes describe something boring in regular life, in language learning, it is an absolute superpower. Here's an example sentence. Pop songs are very repetitive, which makes them great for learning new vocabulary.
Those are some fantastic words to keep in your pocket. But, speaking of vocabulary and output, when beginners start narrating their lives, they often fall into a few common grammar traps.
Oh, that is so true. Let's smooth some of those out.
Yeah.
What is a common mistake you hear when people are practicing their output?
Well, one of the biggest mistakes happens when people try to translate idioms or feelings directly from their native language.
Mhm.
For instance, in many Romance languages, people express a state of being as something they literally possess.
Yeah.
So they might try to say, I have hunger.
Oh, yes, that is a very common direct translation trap.
Mm.
In English, we do not possess hunger like an object in our hands. We experience the feeling of it.
Right.
So instead of saying, I have hunger, we smooth that out to say, I am hungry.
And the exact same rule applies to age. You don't say, I have 20 years. You smooth it out to, I am 20 years old. It's a very small structural change, but it makes you sound completely natural.
Are there any other traps beginners fall into during that output phase?
Yeah, the second mistake happens during step 3, when people are practicing talking to themselves. They often try to use very complicated grammar right out of the gate, and they just end up totally frustrated.
What's an example of that?
For example, they might try to construct a sentence like, by the time I arrive home, I will have been walking for an hour.
Oh my goodness, that is a wall that is way too tall to climb. That is overly complicated, even for daily native speech.
Right, it's just too much.
When you're describing your day to yourself, keep it strictly to the simple present or the simple past tense. We can smooth that out entirely. Just say, I am walking home. It takes an hour.
Keeping it simple really is the best advice. If you overcomplicate your self-talk, you'll just get frustrated and quit. You have to step over the small rocks first before you try to climb the mountain.
Step over the small rocks. I love that. Let's actually show what stepping over those rocks looks like in practice. Let's do a quick role play.
Okay, I'll set the scene. I am alone in a bright kitchen making breakfast. I'm going to think out loud using simple staccato sentences. And you're going to play my roommate who walks in and interrupts me.
Sounds fun. Let's do it.
All right. I am in the kitchen. The kitchen is bright. I am holding an egg. The egg is cold. I will cook the egg in the pan. The pan is black.
Hey, who are you talking to? Are you on the phone?
Oh, hey. No, I'm not on the phone. I'm just practicing my English out loud. I'm trying to train my brain to think without translating.
Oh, that's actually really cool. I thought you were just talking to the eggs for a second. Does it actually help?
It really does. It feels a little funny at first, but narrating what's right in front of me makes finding the right words so much easier when I have a real conversation later.
Well, keep doing it. Your English sounds great. Just please do not burn my eggs while you're busy talking to yourself.
I'll try my best. The eggs are safe.
And scene. That was a great example of how easy and low pressure narrating your life really is.
See, everyone? It really is that easy. You just narrate your life with whatever is directly in front of you.
We've covered so much amazing, actionable information today. Let's quickly summarize the roadmap we've laid out. If you want to speak fluently and stop translating, you have to train your brain like a muscle. First, start thinking silently in simple English sentences.
Second, surround yourself with fun input. Watch videos and listen to podcasts about things you genuinely enjoy so your brain relaxes and naturally absorbs the vocabulary.
And third, practice your output by speaking out loud to yourself in private. Describe your room, your food, or your day. If you do this for just 15 minutes a day, your brain's pathways will completely transform.
Which brings us perfectly to our question of the day. We want you to practice your output right now in the comment section below.
Yes. Here is your prompt. Look around the room you're in right now. What is one simple sentence you can use to describe something you see?
For example, you could write, I see a green plant by the window, or my coffee cup is empty.
We cannot wait to read your simple sentences in the comments. It is a fantastic, low-pressure way to practice your output. And here's one final thought for you to mull over. As you build these new English highways in your brain, pay attention to how you feel.
How so?
Well, studies show that thinking in a second language can actually change your decision-making. It can make you more rational and less emotionally reactive. So you aren't just learning a language, you might actually be unlocking a whole new side of your personality.
Wow, that is a fascinating concept to leave off on. Thank you all so much for spending your time with us today. Whether